Welcome to the Small Town Pastor Podcast. This podcast is a ministry of Small Town Network. We exist to make disciples, train pastors, and plant churches in smaller communities. My name is Eric Nielsen. I'm joined today by several people. First, by my co-host, Tony Colomb. Hello, Tony. How are you, sir?
Great. And I'm
And
excited
then
for
my
this one.
friends, I'm sorry,
Oh, I'm
my
excited for
friends.
this one. It's going to be great.
Yeah, me too. Evan Berry, Marcelino Canoas, and John Kelly. So we've done previous episodes with all three of these guys, and I somehow convinced them to come back on again for another episode, talking a little bit about the small town network. So what's been really cool for me is that we started a church during COVID, year 2000, and our prayer was I should say my prayer was to start. We've added people to pray, but for the beginning, it was me saying, God, I really feel like you want me to be back in church planting. I've been at a church plant for 17 years. And this time we want it to be a church that plants churches. And so I began praying on my knees with a sense of urgency, probably or actually late 2019, and said, God, help us to plant 10 churches. And this might sound dramatic, but I was like, before I die. Um, and so like, 10, before I die, like, but the second half, I was kind of having that midlife crisis thing. In the second half of my life, I just want to be part of, if I could help plant 10 churches, I would feel like I didn't waste the second half of my life, right? And so as we began praying, for a couple of years, nothing happened. You have to remember that we were planting our church at that time. So I was busy doing a lot of stuff, but kept talking about it, kept praying about it. In 2024, we officially incorporated the small town network as a separate entity from our church plant and began the process of really scouring, the world, talking to anybody that would talk to me about planting churches. And the only people I could find is you three. So Evan was the first guy to say yes. John was second. Although I asked John first, he just took longer. There was a little detour to the Mexico that was involved. Evan was first, John was second, and Marcelino was third. It does excite me to tell you that I think we've got our fourth and probably our fifth underway, under work, so probably in the next couple of years.
That's great.
But we're
Awesome.
super excited. My church is excited. One of our elders, Wes, who was part of our original church planning team that moved from Oregon to Idaho with me, was literally in tears, Evan, at your launch. He just was so like, we're doing the thing that we
Mm.
dreamed of doing. And
Wow.
so ask God to answer your hopes and dreams, he sends the likes of you guys. So we could name this the Bald and Beautiful Podcast. We all have the shiny dome. It's not a, thank you, Evan, not a prerequisite for planting with us, but you do get double the startup funds if you are
Yeah.
also
Yes.
also bald. So let's talk. Let me throw the question to the group for a minute and just say, why in the world would you work with us? We're a church no one's ever heard of, pastored by someone that no one's ever heard of, doing church plants in places no one's ever heard of. Why in the world would you guys say yes to something like this?
So that's a great question. And I'll start out by saying this. I have been in ministry for roughly 25 years, and I've seen a lot of leadership styles, a lot of leadership profiles, a lot of leadership church. That's just all there is to it. And to date, I have never experienced anything like Small Town Network. Small Town Network, Eric is a leader, but he's also got guys behind him who also have their ladies with them, their wives that are behind them as well, and the team is well-rounded, and they get together. When they get together, they get along. How about that? And they just do a good job meshing different ideas and being able to deal with each other and manage what's going on with Small Town Network. To date, I've never experienced any kind of, I guess you'd call it, a management team or a leadership team behind me like Small Town Network.
Mm.
Oh, thanks, John. It's been fun. John, again, it's a little different with John because he actually is part of our church family. So he knows like all the characters in the show. So
Yeah, man. And just to add to what John said, like everything he said, and for us personally, like Small Town Network, Eric came on board at just like the perfect time, usually the way God does it, right? And provided some really hands on practical knowledge on how to make disciples, not just theories. That was a really big deal for us. The Small Town Network in general has a heart for small town plants, which we definitely fall in that category. And right out of the gate, man, when I met Eric, I could just tell that disciple making was at the core and at the heart of what they were trying to do. And they really wanted to authentically help. You know, it wasn't just like a gimmick of like, hey, we're just trying to put something flashy on paper and start a network and get up there with the big boys. Like honestly, from day one, like Eric was like, hey, bought a plane ticket, heading out to you, man. Gonna check out your town. Like it was authentic, real care, real love to be like, man, I care about what you're doing and I want to help. And that, like, especially starting out, was just a huge deal to us because we had searched and searched for that, and we found pockets of it, but never on the scale that Eric really brought to the table and Small
Mm,
Town Network.
that's great, man. I love coming to your compound, like your family farm with all your relatives and stuff. It's
We gave you the
amazing.
access code.
Yeah.
They're like literally like, out in them hills, man. And like, he's like, yeah, this is where we plane our own wood to build our houses and stuff. And I'm like, what are you talking? This is amazing. It's like I'm watching a show of like backwood preppers or something. It's incredible. I'm serious. They all built their own homes and they have their own
Yeah.
lumber. And it's like, it's incredible. You guys need to go out sometime. How about you, Marcelino? What do you think, man? What?
Well, I mean, to resonate with what everyone else is saying, but really, I believe in alignment, and I think the values that you bring, it aligns with what we want to do. We want to just be a church that, pours into people and disciples and has the same mission of planting other churches. So that really brought me in, and just the acceptance and the willingness to work, the beliefs that you have in us, the belief that, hey, we're gonna do this together. And I think, to me, like, there's nothing like it. I'm really grateful for small town.
Well, we're grateful for you, man. I promise.
Mm.
It's we were talking just a little bit off screen before we started about, we're trying to create kind of a family of churches. And this medium that we have called Zoom, a lot of people hate Zoom. I am the world's biggest fan because
Mhm.
we literally could not be doing the ministry that we're doing in these places without this powerful tool. And so here we are on the screen, we're doing coaching on screens, we're doing all kinds of stuff. But that's not all of it. So like in February, we had our very first like church planner kind of gathering training, and we brought you guys to or southern Idaho in February. Like the best time of year to be in Idaho. It was freezing cold, and we like toured you guys around and did some training. And there was a couple things that have happened. That one, and then when Evan planted, when they launched, all of us were there. And so I want to ask Marcelino and John, what was it like for you guys who were kind of, behind him in order to see that church launch? What did that do for you guys to be there that day when his church launched and to be part of that experience? And what did that maybe, any insights or encouragement that gave you as the guy that's kind of like next in line?
Yeah, for me, to see something come into fruition, like to see all the hard work pay off, to see a community of people surround Evan and just show up, to see people eager to hear the gospel there. It was just really, really nice to see that, and to feel the presence of the Lord there. To me, it gave me hope, and it gave me, like, it recharged me. Like, yes, my wife said, hey, we could do that. We could do that. That's something that we're gonna do. So it was really cool to see, for me to see that, to see it from, hey, this is just an idea, to like, hey, this is along the way. When we went to Idaho, he was in the process. He was going through the trenches, and now it's here. Like that process is really cool to see. It was
Yeah,
good for me
man.
to see.
I
Yeah,
love
for
this
us,
quick. I want to hold on, John, real quick. I want to say something about what Marcelino said. Really important. The way we do discipleship and the way we do church planning should lead the people who see it to the conclusion that, you know what? I could do this. I think we
Mm,
could do this. And if we're not making disciples in a way that people think they could do, then we're doing it wrong, right? Because if the mission of the local church is to make disciples of the nations, then we should be doing it in a way that everybody feels like they could get in the game and do this. And so
Yeah.
I love that Liz concluded that. Like she said that after she visited High Plains, she said, I think we could do this, and that's if we're making it so complicated that the average person feels like I could never do this, we're doing something wrong.
Right.
Right? We want to inspire people with confidence that I think I could do that. So, John, what were you going to say?
So I was basically going to say the same thing. Kimberly and I walked away from that. First of all, super blessed. I mean, it was amazing. The Holy Spirit just showed up and brought all this work together into an accumulation that turned out to just be a super blessed day. But more than that, I'm just going to say I totally agree with what you're saying. The way that it was all laid out, the step-by-step process, the showing up at this cool little building and just kind of looking
Awesome.
around and how everything was there. I'm like, yeah, we could definitely do this. We will be doing this. And also I like that I saw some ideas. I thought, oh, that's cool. I probably do that, or this is cool. I'd probably add that in.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that just being a part of what's going on there was very encouraging for both myself and my wife, who I had talked to on the previous podcast, talked about that she has to be on board with what I'm doing, or else we're not going to do it. And
Yeah.
she was there, and she walked away from that thinking, "Wow, this is so cool. I want to be behind you when you do the same thing." And so,
And
yeah, very excited about it.
and Evan, how was it for you to have like these three guys from, Idaho and Arizona and, come and join your church for lunch? Was that cool?
Dude, we announced it from the stage. I was like, guys, we have got people coming from all over America to come support us and say, go do it, man. Go plant this church in this small town. So there was many times that I looked over in that sermon on that day and saw John and Marcelino and you, Eric, and you guys were just basically like, go get it, man. It was amazing. Like
Didn't
really
didn't
one of the highlights of my life, man.
didn't you say like to John, like, I need you in the front row when I'm preaching every week?
Yeah, yeah, John, man, he is an amazing guy to listen to a sermon because he'll just cheer you on. I was keying off of him the whole time. I was like, so can you just fly in every Sunday? What's going to happen here?
That's awesome.
Man, it's been great, like as an outsider, not really plugged into the network as far as an official thing, but just doing this podcast with Eric to interview you guys, hear a lot of similar philosophies of why you're wanting to do this, and to hear your excitement for this upstart church planning network. But on the other side of the coin, what for you guys have been maybe some of the biggest hesitations or hurdles to overcome with starting a church with a very new and smaller network?
I guess I'll start by saying this. I've always been the type of guy who will take a lot of risks and have no problem doing it. And so for me, it hasn't been a difficult scenario. And the reason I say that is because Small Town Network, Eric has stepped into a place that makes everything possible. And so because of that, it changes the dynamic. Typically in my life, I've gone off and done a lot of different things. I am an entrepreneur. I'll take off on my own and go after it. But they'll go after it with my skills. And this time around, I don't have skills in this area. I have skills in ministry, but I've never planted a church. I've never been a pastor that has to show up every Sunday with a sermon. I've never been those things. And so Small Town Network has stepped into the place of saying, not only can you do this, but behind you is going to be a lot of backing. And Eric is also, or Small Town Network has put us through the assessment. That was a key piece to it, because that then opened up doors for financial funding in different areas that he already knew about. I didn't know about Evergreen, and I didn't know about OCEF. I didn't know his connection with them. And because we did the assessment, guess what? Those two organizations are behind us, and they have given us money, and it's sitting in an account even as we speak. And so praise God for all of those pieces. So for me, It's not, I'll take a risk any day. And on Small Town Network, it's been a very easy risk to take.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're excited for
Mm.
what you're doing, John.
Yeah, man. I'll just kind of spin off of that. When we were going through our what are we going to do for the first year and then the next 2 years, just trying to reproduce disciple making groups, it was very evident that we came from more of a secular business background. There's a big difference in having employees on the payroll and having
Yeah.
friends in the faith
Mhm.
and pastoring friends in the faith. So one of the big hesitations for me was like, man, how in the world am I going to transition into a place where I'm writing sermons and delivering sermons every Sunday and doing it in a way that is engaging? And what about music? Like what do we do for music? Just coming off of these groups. And not only Eric, but just the whole Small Town Network, man. Just vision cast and vision cast and vision cast, like how you could practically get that off the ground, even through the hesitations, man. Like some of the places that would keep you up at night, it was just that experience that kept bleeding through. That's like, hey, man, stay the course. It's gonna be okay. Faith in God, He'll carry you through. And so we had some hesitations. We still do. I still talk to him weekly about a ton of hesitations, but definitely thankful that there's ample and tons of advice and experience coming through the Small Town Network to kind of plug us in. And I told Eric this one day. I said, when I started the moving company, I ran to my dad because he's got business experience. I just said, give me some business advice that I'm going to know 10 years from now, but I don't know today. And it's the same story. I run to Eric every week, and I'm like, give me some things that I should know, 10 years from now when dealing with this situation or this worship service or this, and that I will know, but I don't know today. And man, that's more valuable than you guys know.
Well, and you know what, Evan, that's a portrait of discipleship, right?
Yeah.
We should be excited to share with people who maybe aren't as far along in the journey as we are,
Right.
right? We should see like have the eyes to see those opportunities and the joy in saying, "Hey man, I've been in that same situation. Let me tell you it's going to be okay," or "Here's what you should do," or "Here's what you should think about," or "Stop freaking out," or "Just steal my sermon this week. It's fine."
Yeah, absolutely.
So one of the things that's unique about this is that I've been part of a couple of different church planting organizations. Both have been really good to work with. But a common lament of church planting directors is that they can't get their church planters to stay engaged with the organization past launch. So it's like, I want a job, I want money, I need this, I need that. And then like once it started, it's like, see you later, and we're trying to build a family of churches. And to do that, it's just like relational discipleship. You have to get in each other's lives. And so, why in the world wouldn't we all fly out to be part of the launch of a church? That was the best thing ever, right? I mean, the joy that I felt in watching Evan get up there and preach an award-winning sermon on opening day, to a packed house was like, I cannot tell you how joyful I was for that. I'm still joyful over that. And the fact that we could all come together and hang out and even be on a screen. But there's some practical things. And when you're part of a network and you're trying to do stuff, there's some financial stuff that comes into play. So we had a really cool moment in February. So my church has been blessed by God to be in a financial situation. Again, we're a small church in a smaller community. None of our pastors are full time. We're all part-time people. We wrote a check for $25,000 to Evans Church to get them money to start up, right? And that was a big sacrifice for a church our size to write that check. We also pledged to write that same check for John, who's our daughter church planner, 2 years in a row. We're going to write a check. Well, we already are paying John right now. So $50,000 commitment to John's church plan. I'm going to be asking at some point, my elders are going to hear this podcast and go, "What?" I'm going to be asking them to write another check for Marcelino's church plan. Because this is our family. And how could we not get involved in helping financially support? Part of the funding model is that we ask the churches that plant with us to give back 10% to the network that's 100% set aside for church planting. So no salaries, no administrative costs. All the
Mhm.
church planting tithe, we call it, goes back to church planting.
Mhm.
And so it was so cool. There was this moment, and it was unscripted. Evan, we're walking into my house for a training session during that planter retreat in February. And Evan slips me a check for a couple $1,000s, and he said, "Hey, this is our first money back to the network for church planting." And so I was able to walk into my living room with all of us dudes and our wives and say, "Hey guys, Evan just gave me this check, and guess what? This is the first $2,000 that's going to go plant Marcelino's church plant in
Ah,
Flagstaff." And it was this great moment to kind of
Yeah.
like to visualize like what it means to be a family of churches, right? It's not just like I get the startup money that I need and then I'm off to the races and see you in heaven someday. It's actually like there's this connection between like what I'm doing and what you're doing and what we're doing, and that's really important that if you know, and I'm telling you guys what I want it to be like, but on camera. But I really want the subsequent churches to have that same experience.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping my friend plants in Hawaii so we can all fly out for the launch
Yeah.
in Hawaii.
sign
Um,
me up for that one too.
yeah, man, for real. I went to visit those guys in January. It was fantastic, man. I'm like swimming with sea turtles, and I'm like, we need to have the small town pastor retreat annually in Hawaii.
Hawaii.
Yeah.
So pray, brothers, that the Lord will provide. Do you guys have
Oh,
any we're kind of getting toward the end. Anything you want to like ask each other or say to each other, or Tony, do you have any questions for us before we kind of start wrapping up?
Man, I don't know about a question, but I think it's worth saying because I think it's really cool about this network and you guys. We just recorded 3 different episodes with 3 different planters, and there was a similar refrain in every single one of those episodes. And it was a heart and a philosophy to be a disciple making church. And that just like came through the clearest to me in listening to that. And I love that, and I commend you all for that. And I pray that Jesus will continue to work in you and through you to be the type of men that God will use to carry that mission forward. It's awesome. So,
Thank you.
I appreciate that
Yeah.
feedback, man.
mhm.
I concur.
Yeah.
Listen, why don't we go ahead? We'll kind of wrap this one up, but I know you guys got stuff. I mean, Evan's in a moving van right now, so he's got stuff to do. But I want to say, I think you guys are heroes. You know, when I was a church planter the first time, people would say that stuff to us. They would say, "Oh, you guys are heroes," and I'm like, it's not really that heroic to like take a full-time job from somebody and go start a church and do it however I want to do it. And it's a lot more heroic to like basically say, I want to start something from scratch, and I'm gonna Evan works a full-time job and doesn't take a dime from his church.
yeah.
That's why he's calling from like live on the scene from a van down by the river. um, that's heroic to say, you know what? I've got a family, a young family. I've got a full-time job, and I'm also going to do something that matters for eternity. For Marcelino to leave one of the biggest churches in the country, where he could have
Mhm.
easily stayed on staff his whole life and just done what he's doing, and no one would have like questioned that. To quit that job to go start something from scratch. John Kelly to move to a town that struggles with poverty and gangs and all kinds of stuff, and to go and say, I'm going to be a mechanic and provide for myself and go into this community that no one else wants to go to and plant a brand new church and make disciples there. You guys are heroes of the kingdom. And I just want to, in case no one ever tells you that, that's how I think of you. We're so, so thankful for you guys and the boldness you have to stand up and contend for the gospel. And
Mhm.
so, again, thank you for everything you do. Looking forward to subsequent episodes where we can do like check-ins, like after you
Yeah.
launch and how
Yeah.
things are
Yeah.
going.
That sounds
You
great.
guys are literally the best advertisement for our new network, because you're the people that are actually doing it. And Tony, Tony's, I can see he's like excited to meet you guys and hear what's going
Mhm.
on, which is great. I'm going to be tapping him up for money later. So
Yeah.
it's all working out. So all part of my carefully laid plan. So, yeah.
Ooh.
All right, well, let me do our wrap up bit here. If you like what we're doing, please like or subscribe wherever you're listening or watching. If you're interested in Small Town Network, you can find us online at smalltownnetwork.com. And if you believe in the importance of planting disciple making churches in smaller communities, we'd love you to prayerfully consider partnering with us in prayer and financial support. You've been listening to the Small Town Pastor Podcast.